Hey everyone, this is MusicTechHelpGuy, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can improve your rock and metal guitar tones if you're using Amp Designer and Logic using the Waves MDMX distortion modules. So these just came out this past week, and they're a set of 3 modules. There's an Overdrive module, a Screamer, like Tube Screamer module, and then a Fuzz module. And everyone seems to be just doing like a flat review, throwing it on whatever. I wanted to do something a little bit different, so what I'm going to do in this video is show you how to use these to improve your guitar tones. When it comes to guitar amps and guitar amp simulators, Logic's Amp Designer, it's not really that great. I mean, it's a good starting point. It's good for demos, maybe a starter EP for your band. It's okay for clean tones, but I find that it sort of lacks in the heavy guitar tone department. So on this example, I've got the Brown Stack Distort preset pulled up. This is the one I like the most. I've got the Royer R121 model mic up there, and I've got this on a pretty high gain setting. Let me play you what this sounds like right now. On the rhythm parts, I have the MDMX Screamer before the Amp Designer plugin. And then for the bass, I have the Overdrive plugin, the Overdrive MDMX module before the bass amp designer. Now, keeping that in mind, let me turn off all of the MDMX modules on the rhythm guitar and the bass, and let's listen to that again. So the palm muting doesn't have the punch to it, the chords don't have the sustain to them. And if you've been a guitar player for a while, you probably already know this, but one of the best things you can do to improve your rock and metal tones is to put some sort of an overdrive or distortion pedal before your amps. It's pretty easy to change the overall tone and brightness and presence of your amp by doing something to the tone before you send it over to the amp. So what I used to do is I would add a Tube Screamer pedal right before the amp. And what this does is it not only boosts the signal level, but it also boosts the harmonics, boosts the richness, and the actual amount of distortion that's being applied right now through the Tube Screamer on my rhythm guitars is not much. This is the guitars, there's 2 of them, left and right, panned left and right, with just the Tube Screamer, no Amp Designer. And then here's the signal just clean. So there's sort of this staging that you have to do to set up a tone like this. And I'm not in any way saying that this guitar tone is like the most kick-ass guitar tone you're going to get in Logic. There's a lot of other amp sims out there that do a much better job than Amp Designer. If all you have is Amp Designer and you don't really like their pedal boards, you can try throwing some of these MDMX distortion modules before your amp, and they're pretty cheap. Right now I think they're on sale, sort of the holiday post Black Friday $49 sale, and you get all 3 of them. So I don't want to do like an in-depth tutorial on these because I'm sure it's already been done somewhere else, but the basic premise for these is pretty simple. You have your input and output volume or gain. I love that each of these have a mix blend knob, so you can blend your original signal with the distorted signal. If you're using like a guitar pedal, you can't really do that. If I went back and used like my Tube Screamer pedal in my amp, I can't really, I can't easily blend between the distorted signal and the clean signal. I've always found that you get the best result when you blend the two together. You have your gain, that's the amount of actual gain being applied or amount of distortion being applied. This pedal has a boost knob, which the result ends up being a brighter, more distorted tone. And then the tone knob allows you to sweep between a darker tone and a brighter tone. All of these MDMX distortion models have an HD switch, and they also have a temperature knob as well. The temperature knob sort of lets you sweep between like a warmer signal and sort of like a, I don't want to say colder, but like a thinner tone. So I'm going to go with the warmer side on this one. And then the HD switch, this is like an oversampling mode. Oversampling options are usually pretty common in mastering plugins and in mastering limiters. And essentially what this does is it upsamples the audio for processing, kind of like temporarily increasing the sample rate, doing the processing, and then going back to the original sample rate of the session. The problem with not oversampling is that you can get upper overtones at lower sample rates that fold back down into the recording. And distortion and saturation plugins are really known for causing this, because if your upper overtones go beyond sort of the Nyquist frequency for your particular sample rate, it can cause this fold over noise, or aliasing as it's called. So for instance, if you're working at a sample rate of 48,000, if you have upper overtones that are higher than half of that sample rate, so 48,000, divide it in half, you get 24,000. That's the highest frequency that you can theoretically accurately reproduce with a sample rate of 48,000. Now you might think, well, that's way above what I can hear, but sometimes, and actually pretty often with distortion, sometimes those overtones can go way higher than that frequency. And so when they do, these upper overtones beyond 24,000 hertz can fold back down onto the recording and create some nasty overtones and noises and just lack of clarity in the recording. So you can try pulling the HD switch up to oversample the processing, which can help to avoid that. Now, the thing is, though, sometimes with distortion, it actually sounds better with it down. So it's not like with mastering where you always want to have it on. Here, it's just a tonal choice. Yeah, here I'm actually liking the HD switch off. And again, I love the fact that I can blend between the dry signal and the distorted signal. So here, the screamer is providing sort of like a signal boost for the rhythm guitar parts. Now, let's check out bass here. I've got DI bass, and it's just going through Amp Designer here with the one of these Ampeg flip-top settings. And on its own, if I turn off the Overdrive plugin, it sounds like this. And then with Overdrive turned on, now, depending on what type of music you're recording and just your own personal preferences, you may actually prefer the clean tone of the bass. For rock music, I love distorted bass. It was something I didn't do a long time ago. A lot of my early records that I did with my band, I liked a super smooth, clean bass tone. And what I found is on smaller speakers, I don't really hear the bass at all, because it's almost all fundamental bass, maybe a little bit of the second, third, and fourth harmonics. With distortion, this increases the harmonics all the way across the spectrum. So you end up with something that's a bit more present. Now you have to be careful not to use too much because it can sort of blur the punch of the bass and blur the transients a bit. But again, that's what the mix knob down here is for. You can blend between your dry signal and your distorted signal. So a lot of things here are similar to the Tube Screamer. You've got your gain. There's two different types. There's two different tones, more of like a hard square wave type versus a softer type. You got your HD knob. You have your mix, your temperature, your output. All of that's the same. The thing that's different here is you have this punch and rider control and then a 4-band EQ. So the punch versus rider determines how the distortion is, or the overdrive is added to the signal. If you put this on punch, it sort of acts like, it's kind of weird, but it acts like a compressor in terms of how it adds the distortion. So the distortion is not static, it's variable, which is really cool. So let me just play around with this, and you can blend between the original amount of distortion and the amount of sort of this variable distortion. On this plugin, I actually like the rider option better because what it does is it sort of adds the distortion more at just like the transients, and you can set a threshold for this, which you can't set for the punch mode. So it's like on the front end of the transients where I really want that presence, that's where it comes in more. So I find myself using the rider mode more so than the punch mode. And then there's a 4-band EQ, you get your low and high bands, but in the middle here, you've got two mid bands, a low mid band with 3 different center frequencies. So you can use this to sort of figure out what tone you like best. Same thing here in the high-mid band. You can find the right mid boost that you want there. And then you can blend this with the original dry signal. So if I want just a touch of the distortion in there, I can pull the mix knob way down. So that's the Overdrive module. And last up, there's the MDMX Fuzz. This sort of reminds me of the type of fuzz distortion you'd get from like the muff or big muff pedals from Electro Harmonics. I had a couple of those back in the day as well. It's a different type of distortion. It's definitely more sort of fizzly sounding, but also works pretty well on bass as well. So a lot of similar controls here, your temperature, mix, output and input gain, your overall distortion gain. There's 2 different types as well. You've got your punch and rider down here as well as an EQ. The main thing that's a lot different here from the Overdrive module is there's this little sort of XY pad here where you can sweep between dry, up, or down. And what this does is it sort of gives the fuzz almost like a octave up or octave down detuned effect. So if you want to emphasize the high end a bit better, you can try the up direction. And if you want to emphasize the bass a bit and almost give it sort of like a low octaver pedal type of effect, you can try that as well. Yeah, I think I like the overdrive pedal more on the bass than the fuzz distortion. But for some genres of rock, you may want more intentional fuzz and less punch. And this is the type of sound that the fuzz module is great for, even on guitars or leads as well. One last time, let me just A-B these with and without the screamer and overdrive pedals. I'll play toward the middle to the end here. So again, if you want to check these out, I'll leave a link to get them in the video description below. This time of year is the best time to buy plugins. Almost everything's half off or more. And I'm also now a Waves affiliate, so I'll leave an affiliate link to Waves in the video description below. If you buy anything from them, including these, I'll get a little kickback from each sale, and this helps support the channel. So again, if you want to check these out, use my affiliate link below. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. You can also check me out on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and if you'd like to make a monthly contribution to the channel, you can also check me out at patreon.com/MusicTechHelpGuy. Thanks for the support, and thanks for watching.